Hello, let's look at my Kenmore 10 stitch from the 1970s. This belonged to my maternal grandmother, who used it to make clothes and Halloween costumes for me. And I remember helping her sew pen stuff and things when I was fairly little, so I remember her sitting here and using the machine. And now she's no longer with us. It kind of is special, so I wanted to make sure I had it in working order and share what I've learned from this machine. This machine is very nice. This is my fourth sewing machine that I have, and this one is pretty solid, to be honest. So when I got this, she had put it in a closet and it had been there for about 20 years. And it was pretty much tan and brown from nicotine. I had to really scrub and wipe everything off, and the yellowing of the plastic is pretty standard for just plastic yellowing, but there was nicotine everywhere. And the best thing I found to get it off is Windex. Just Windex. You can dilute it if you want, but straight Windex helped really get that off. So let's look at the machine. Cut it on. The foot pedal was there, and the foot pedal, plug. Everything's in good shape. Whenever you get an older machine, you probably want to make sure that the cord, the plastic isn't messed up, frayed, or anything. You can get replacements pretty much anywhere. But from what I found, the original that came with the machine, there is no replacing that. It really, it's meant for the machine. All the aftermarket things, just, I don't know, I don't think they work quite as well. There's just something not quite right. So when I oiled this, I found all the parts, all the places to oil the machine are in the booklet. I used something called liquid bearings. It is a synthetic lubricant, and it says you can get this for, I think, maybe $12. And a little bit goes a long way. It really does. Singer makes sewing machine oil as well, but the liquid bearing works perfectly fine. They claims to go in and replace the existing oil with it. I don't know if that's true or not. That would be great if it doesn't, but because everybody has to clean out old oil, put new oil in, grease. This machine, you can grease it. You only grease gears. You never grease the oiling points that are in the booklet. And I actually have the original booklet, not to this machine. I actually bought this afterwards. It even has the inserts that came with it, which is pretty cool. But the manual, these things, if you ever need a question answered, go to the manual. If it's not in the manual, something might be wrong. But as far as winding the bobbin and where you should oil, there's oiling under the cover plate. So you can see there's places where you oil. I put grease where there's actually gears touching metal. But these little arrows tell you exactly where you can oil. When you flip open the bottom, there are 4 screws. Don't be afraid to unscrew things. You can put them right back in. They're meant to be serviced. They're not hard to get out. The bobbin case, oil goes there. And then there's 3 points there. And then there's the motor. I have heard that you can put oil in the felt where the openings of the motor is. Just a drop will do. And there are 2 belts to this machine. I haven't had to replace the belts. They're in pretty good order. They are rubber. Don't ever oil the belts. The belts will break down because of the oil. You do not want to get oil on the belts. And there is the rubber tire for the bobbin winder, which is actually, when you take this top off, it's located under this bobbin thing, and that hits the wheel. A couple problems I had with this machine. The clutch would not disengage the needle. I think I fixed that. It was intermittent, but I went ahead and made an adjustment. I think it should be okay. I added 2 felt discs here. It really does help with winding. I cleaned out the case, the bobbin case, and I replaced the bulb here with an LED bulb, and I bought cool and warm, and I like the cool one. It's a bayonet style, so it will take LED lights. Maybe you like the traditional light, but you can get the warm wood, but the LED, the bright one, it really does help. I have just the original foot that came with it, which I have down for some reason, and the needles, standard needles. I just have an orange one here, and a standard foot, the zigzag foot, because this is considered a zigzag machine because the stitches are, a lot of them are zigzag. I don't really use zigzag stitches too much. I usually use a straight stitch. So let's talk about the parts of the machine. Bobbin winder, which you push and snap. Before you do that, if you're winding the bobbin, you disengage the clutch by twisting this towards you and switching the bobbin pin, pushing it that way. It will push, and here is the bobbin guide. When it fills up, it should snap it back. If you're having problems with this, check the rubber, the big rubber washer that's under this. It's fat. It looks like an inner tube, but it's under this. So when you take off these two screws, pop it off, it's going to be under this. It's not going to be down in there. There are two spool holders. This is the one you use for winding the bobbin, and this is the one you use mainly for threading, for the thread. If you're using a double needle, you could use this. And then you're over here. This little disc here that pops up, this little spring-loaded thing, is the only thing you need to wrap the disc, the thread around when you wind your bobbin. So you just run it through here. I have seen someone run it in front and then behind, but the book says to run it that way and then put the bobbin there. This uses class, I believe it's class 16 bobbins? These metal ones, these are aftermarket. I bought these on Amazon. I bought a pack of, how many is that? 25 for like $7. Here's my little thing, a nice little case for them. So they still make them, don't be scared. Over here you have the little pigtail. It looks like a little pigtail that sort of guides the thread. And then that goes down here. So you're not going to use this top part if you're winding the bobbin. This thing, I've never really paid attention to it, to be honest, but it's the presser foot pressure. So you push it down to increase the pressure on the foot when you drop the foot down. And then you push this middle disc to pop it back up. This is absolutely no pressure. You can do, it just, so this will push down and then snap up. There's a big spring on the inside you can see right there. So that's what that does. So a lot of times I'm selling woolens for stuffed animals, and I don't want any pressure really at all. Here is the thread uptake, but you will go from here to here, and then you will put the thread through the stitch pressure control. Let me use the proper terminology. Always a good thing when you are talking to people. Use the terminology that is in the book. The tension control, thread tension. So you want to put it in front of this little metal plate here. Bring it up, there's a little spring. Make sure the thread goes over the little pointy thing there, which a lot of people don't do, and the spring will go back down. This spring is to help you guide it to that part, and then pull it up a little bit. Once you pull it up, you will pull it through the take-up lever. If you don't see it, twist this towards you to make it pop out. There we go. And then pull it through the metal. Pull it through this guide too. Then there's a smaller one here, and then you pull it through your thread, put the thread from the front to the back, pull it through, and then you've threaded your machine. Other controls, here's your stitch selector. Here you have your 10 stitches. Here is the orange, and there's green, and there's yellow, so that color corresponds to what this the stitch. This is the type of stitch, and this is the stitch length, not so much the width. And you would turn this to adjust things. So the stitch length control will help you get really tight stitches or really loose stitches. If you drop it to 0, I believe if you drop it to 0, it's going to do them very tightly. 6 is pretty standard. With a straight stitch, you want to stay in the oranges. Then there's the buttonhole, and some of the zigzag stitches will be in the green. And then you have the yellow for stretchy stuff. Let's see, what else? Power button and the reverse lever. So you hit the reverse. You have to hold that down to do reverse. There's also a little screw here. And this screw is the buttonhole stitch adjuster. I've never had to touch it, but it's right there under this. I was wondering what that screw did. This model has a little table that you can take off. And here is where you put the bobbin, and the bobbin, and the whole bobbin component. So let's take a look at the bobbin assembly, because I know this can be a little tricky. Let's assemble the shuttle and make sure it's in proper working order. So we have this part, which is called the pointed hook and shuttle. This is called the shuttle driver, so we're going to put this in there. Looks like the fork and the pointy part and the rod in the middle of the post. It's in there just so. And then I'm going to put in this, which has the little cutout point there with the fins up at the top. This is called the shutter race cover. There's a little post at the bottom which lines with the post there. There we go. Snap it in. These are very easy to manipulate. And then I'm going to, now that the thread is clockwise, put in the bobbin. Push it in. There. And let's test it. There. Should be just fine. And the way to test it, definitely, I'm going to put the thread out there, is to use the thread uptake, which now it's closed. Let's look at threading the machine. Okay, let's thread the machine. So, when you thread your machine, make sure you're using the same type of thread and the same thickness. Otherwise, it can cause issues. So, usually, when you wind your bobbin, you're going to use the same thread that you wound your bobbin with as your top stitch thread. Put it on here. It's going to come from the back. The thread's going to come from the back. Put it on the first post. Piggy tail down here. Okay, now let's look at how to properly put the thread on the tension knob. It took me years to figure this out. I always thought it didn't work, but I just wasn't doing it right because instructions were kind of, I don't know, maybe I didn't read them. So with this thread, there's a little fin here, I call it a fin. Put it in front of that, and you'll see this little springy metal piece. Well, bring that up, and then bring your thread over where it catches on this pointy tooth here. And then just give it a tug, and then what you'll do is put the thread up through here and put it through the take-up knob. The other thing I didn't realize was the tension knob doesn't really engage until you drop your foot, and then you can really feel that you can tug it, and there is a huge difference. So anyway, it took me forever to figure that out. Most people on this machine like their tension for most fabrics to be about right here. So between 4 and 5, that's pretty standard for most fabrics. I found that out, and it works fine for me. Through the uptake, this little hook, which has a fairly large hole, pull it down here on this side of the guide, right there on that guide, then from the back to the front in that guide, and now we need to put it front to back through the needle. Did I get it? Now, if you wet your fingertip and rub it on the back of the needle, sometimes it's a trick, it will go right through. Sometimes, depending on how big the hole is. If it doesn't, then do it. No. If it is giving you problems, try snipping it with a nice new cut so it's not frayed, and try again. Because if you okay, I've probably fast forwarded because it took me too long. I was wearing the wrong glasses, so pull it front to back. Make sure it does not loop like this. That's never a good thing. So pay attention to it. It should not twist. It should go right through the front. And pull it under the foot, and it should freely move. Okay, so now I'm going to uptake this thread that I put in the bobbin, turning the wheel towards me, pulling this out, and it should pick up the thread below. Nope. Try again. There it goes. Very good. 1 or 2 pulls. And you want to pull the bobbin thread through the front. With this machine, as with most machines, when you're getting ready to put fabric on and you want to start sewing, you put the fabric on, lower the foot, and you put the needle down into the fabric, because if you don't, it could snatch, and this machine is notorious for that for me when I'm sewing. It will pull up the top piece of thread. The take-up lever will just pull it out, and then you're sewing and you're like, why isn't it sewing? So these tails are always good to do. If for some reason you're trying to pull some slack thread and it's not coming, just crank the wheel. There we go. And that will be just fine. Let's wind a bobbin. So I have a class 16. When in doubt, refer to the manual. There should be a supply list, a part list, yeah. It just says bobbins. Part list bobbins. Well, I believe it's class 16, I believe. You just have to say that they fit Kenmore, and they're metal, and they have lots of little holes. Really, there's not too many that it can be. I'm going to put the thread on the spool. These have little slots in here, so if these ever get loose, feel free to take your handy-dandy flathead and tighten them up. There's a little nylon disc underneath, but they will spin right off, so I'm going to slip this right here. And one thing I want to do is disengage the clutch. I'm going to turn this towards me. There we go, and it stops. Take the bobbin, run the thread through one of the holes, because we have to save it falling off. Push the bobbin all the way down, engage the bobbin, pull it up through, the machine is on, and I have my foot on the pedal. We can stop that and finish winding. Now, one thing I did notice, if you notice it first off, the needle was going up and down, and then when I stopped, it stopped the needle from going up and down because the clutches should be disengaged. That's the problem I've been having with this machine. I've taken this assembly off. It seems to be a matter of the oil in the shaft, as far as I can tell, because when I disassembled this and popped it out, and the rubber ring is fine, it seems like it has to look for the space in the wheel. So let's see. Finish spinning. I never like to fill my bobbins up all the way. Okay, when you're done winding your bobbin, I'm going to disengage, pop it off, cut it, and then I have a bobbin with this tomato red thread. Put it in my little box, pop this off, or thread my machine if I need it. And there we go. We just wound a bobbin. So